There is something strange about Poppy Playtime. Every chapter introduces a new monster, a new threat, a new personality controlling the space. Huggy stalks you, Mommy manipulates you, and Catnap hunts you. But once you go deeper into the factory, the more it feels like those characters aren't the main center of the story anymore. Because something else is always there. Not in front of you, not chasing you, but present, watching, collecting. The prototype isn't just Experiment 1006, he isn't just a final boss reveal, he's the connective tissue of the entire narrative. And once you start looking at each chapter through that lens, you realize something unsettling. The prototype has been around every corner since the beginning. Chapter 1 feels isolated. It's just you and Huggy Wuggy inside an abandoned factory. The horror is simple. You're being hunted. But when Huggy falls at the end of the chapter, he disappears into the darkness. No body, no aftermath, no closure. But at the same time, it feels like a sequel setup. But later, once you understand the prototype's behavior, that moment becomes something else entirely. Because we learn that the prototype collects broken experiments. He scavenges, he repurposes, he evolves through what others lose. So suddenly chapter 1 doesn't feel isolated anymore. It feels like the first harvest. Even without seeing him appear physically, the prototype system is already in motion behind the scenes. And that's the key word here, system. Chapter 2 is where the illusion breaks. Mommy Longlegs dominates the entire experience. She speaks to you, mocks you, controls the pacing. She is the chapter's face. From the beginning of the chapter, we get an infomercial about the Mommy Longlegs toy and how she works. And then she dies, and that mechanical hand reaches from below, grabs her, and drags her away. That single moment redefines the series. The prototype doesn't intervene. He doesn't save her, he waits. He lets events unfold as they are. Then he claims the remains of what was. That tells us that he isn't chaotic, he's opportunistic, strategic. He benefits from every fallen experiment, meaning every victory the player has is also a gain for him. The more you survive, the stronger he becomes and more aware he becomes. And now the game has an overarching presence, a collector in the shadows. Chapter 3 shifts the tone. It becomes psychological, religious, controlled. Catnap doesn't just exist in the factory, he worships the prototype. Red smoke fills the air, symbols appear. The factory no longer feels abandoned, it feels governed. The prototype evolves from scavenger to symbol. And then there's Ollie. Ollie's appearance in Chapter 3 is important. It represents resistance, memory, a voice that doesn't align with the cult-like devotion surrounding the prototype. And that contrast matters, because it shows that influence is spreading but not universally. Some experiments submit, some push back, which means the factory isn't random chaos anymore, it's divided territory. The prototype feels present everywhere in this chapter, in the atmosphere, in just fear itself, in devotion. Even when you don't see him, you feel him. And this is where the series is actually at its strongest structurally, because Chapter 3 still has its dominant threat, Catnap. Catnap controls the chapter physically, the prototype controls it symbolically. There's a focus, there's continuity, you know who owns the space. And then something changes. After Chapter 3, the formula begins to loosen. Up until now, each chapter had a clear central predator. Huggy in Chapter 1, Mommy in Chapter 2, Catnap in Chapter 3. Each one dominates their environment, each one defines the tension from start to finish. But as the series continues, that singular presence becomes less defined. Instead of one constant hunter, the horror becomes more fragmented. Multiple threats, multiple shifting dangers. And while that does expand the world a lot, yes, it also weakens something super subtle, the psychological focus. Because part of what made earlier chapters so effective was knowing exactly who you were up against. There was a face behind the fear, a personality stalking you. And here's the irony behind that. The one character who could have filled that constant main threat role across multiple chapters is the prototype, because he is technically the most overarching antagonist. He is technically the most intelligent entity in the factory. He is the one influencing everything. But he rarely occupies a chapter the way Huggy, Mommy, or Catnap does. He's present conceptually, but he's not always physically. He's the shadow, not the hunter. And while that builds his mystery, it also means the series occasionally loses that tight, one dominant threat structure that made the early chapters feel more focused. But maybe that's intentional, because maybe the prototype was never meant to be just another chapter villain. Maybe he was meant to be the system itself. Chapter 4 deepens the cruelty of Playtime Co. The experiments weren't accidents, they were engineered. Children were turned into products, failures were discarded, and this reframes the prototype entirely. What if he isn't just the smartest experiment? What if he's the one who understood the system, the first one who learned from it? Playtime Co. harvested children, the prototype harvested experiments. Playtime Co. built hierarchy, the prototype built influence. He isn't just random evil, he's adaptive evolution. He mirrors the company that created him, which makes him less like a monster and more like a conscience. By chapter 5, the presence becomes undeniable. The prototype isn't just hinted at, he's central, and looking back, everything aligns. Huggy's fall, Mommy's remains, Catnap's devotion, the division within the factory, every corner feels like part of his design. Not because he was physically chasing you the entire time, but because you were moving inside something he was building. That's the true significance of him. He isn't just the final boss. He's the thread connecting every chapter, the collector, the symbol, the mirror of Playtime Co., and possibly the final evolution of what the factory was trying to create. When you step back, the structure becomes clear. The chapters aren't random monster stories, they're stages of the prototype: survival, collection, influence, understanding, domination. He wasn't hiding, he was growing. And he's been present around every corner since the beginning. Then there's the scariest part, that is, he isn't done. It's what he's still building, and I don't think we've seen the final version of Experiment 1006 yet.